Levi and Edna enjoyed their time with their cousin Daniel last week. He had to go back to the palace to work for the king. But the night after he left, Levi and Edna had the strangest dream. First they heard a voice. I know it's been hard living here in Babylon and having to leave Jerusalem, but I will deliver you just like I rescued your ancestors from slavery in Egypt a long time ago.
Hi, my name is Joseph, and it's because of me that the Israelites ended up in Egypt. Well, kind of. You see, Abraham was my great-great-grandfather. My dad's name was Jacob, but God changed it to Israel. He had 12 sons, and I was his favorite.
Joseph's brothers really didn't like the fact that he was the favorite. God worked through Joseph to understand dreams, so he could help people, but Joseph told them his dreams of one day ruling over them, and that made them even more mad. One day, they made a plan to get rid of him. They sold him to some travelers, who then sold him to a man in Egypt. Meanwhile, the brothers told their dad that Joseph had been killed by a wild animal.
I worked for a man named Potiphar, who was nice, but his wife made up a story about me to get me into trouble because she wanted me to break the rules, and I wouldn't. Even though I was faithful and followed God's laws, I ended up in prison. While I was in prison, I met two other men, the king's cupbearer and the king's baker. One night they had dreams, and when they shared them with me, God helped me explain what they meant. Over time, both of their visions came true. The cupbearer was restored to his position with the king. I asked him to tell the king about me and help get me out of prison. Things didn't work out as well for the baker.
But the cupbearer didn't tell the king about Joseph until much later, when the king had dreams that needed to be interpreted. The king's dreams were about cows and wheat. Joseph explained to the king that the dreams meant everything was going to be great for 7 years. Then there would be a famine for 7 years, so they should save a plan. And that's exactly what happened. So the king trusted Joseph and his God to put him in charge of the planning that was necessary for the famine.
The famine was bad, and even went up into the land where my family lived. My father sent my brothers to Egypt to get food. When they got there, they had to bow down before the man who was in charge, me. But they didn't recognize me. I knew who they were, but I pretended not to.
He accused them of being spies. They said they just wanted to buy grain for their family in the land of Canaan. Then they said they had left their younger brother Benjamin at home. Joseph demanded that he be brought to Egypt to prove their story. And he placed his brothers in prison for 3 days. On the third day, he told them again to bring the youngest brother to Egypt and to prove they were telling the truth.
My brothers talked amongst themselves in Hebrew and were worried about bringing this other brother because of the pain they had caused on account of me. I had to step away because I was filled with emotion. I sent my brothers back with food, but kept one brother.
Once they got back, they told their father all that happened in Egypt and discovered that their money sacks still had money in them, and they were afraid. Then they told their father that the person in charge demanded that they take Benjamin back to prove that they were honest men. He refused. Eventually, they used all the grain that they got from Egypt and had to go back. Their father finally agreed to let them take Benjamin with them.
When they came back to Egypt, my brothers were afraid because of the returned money in their money sacks. But right away I revealed to them that I was in fact their brother Joseph. Then I had our father Jacob brought, so we were all reunited in Egypt. And that's how all of the descendants of Israel ended up in Egypt.
When Levi and Edna woke up, they talked about their dreams. The story sounded familiar to them. Joseph interpreted dreams and got a good job working for the king, just like their cousin Daniel. And all of the Israelites ended up in Egypt, away from their land, just like they were away from that same land. Only if they had to live in Babylon, not Egypt. Maybe God was working in all that was going on and was going to help